Welcome to the Square State Sandlot Podcast. In this episode, we discuss San Jose State versus Wyoming while it was in progress, and a quick flashback to the loss against BYU, the NFL's handling of the two-up concussion protocol and going forward what that will look like, what's gone wrong with the Raiders and can they get it right against the Broncos, what's going on with the Steelers and is it Kenny Pickett time, Aaron Judge hits his 61st home run to tie Roger Maris's AL home run record, and the disappointing end to our team's MLB seasons. Hope you guys enjoy. Should have Kyle joining here shortly, but we are excited to be live again. Currently, the Wyoming Cowboys are still playing. Thought the game would be over by now, which is why we scheduled it for this time. Little interesting that, it's gone the way that it's gone. Currently, they're losing 26-16. Oh, looks like Kyle's just jumped in the lobby, so let's get him added here. Kyle, welcome back. I know we had a little difficulty getting in there, but I already started because the stream was set to kick off at 8:30, so you didn't miss much. Basically just brought us in and said that the game is still going. There was an injury where a San Jose State player got carted off, so that was like a 20-minute delay, but I don't know why this game has been so slow. I mean, it's still a minute 40 left in the third quarter, so a lot of time left. Wyoming's actually playing some pretty good ball right now. They seem to be a second half team, which I guess that gives me some confidence. Yeah. I don't know why. I mean, have you caught any of the game at all?
Yeah, I just flipped it on a little bit ago.
So right at the end of the first half, Peasley connected with Whelan on an absolute bomb on play action. And so that was a great play. And then, unfortunately, they gave up a touchdown right before the end of the half. So that put them back 9. But like I said, I think they're playing pretty good ball. San Jose State's a really tough team. So a lot of things to look forward to, I guess. How are you feeling about this one?
I mean, more so about, I guess, our team than the game itself. And that's kind of where I'm at these days. But I'm really happy seeing those little flashes. Mm-hmm. But it's also frustrating because why don't we do it more?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess I have a lot more hope and a lot more faith in the team than I did 2 weeks ago.
For sure. I mean, we didn't get to talk about the BYU loss much.
It was a good game, and we didn't.
I didn't think so.
I really just wanted it to be a game, and it was.
Yeah.
So I will take it.
No, they played very well in that BYU game. So it was.
And talking about second half team, though, sorry, Bill. That BYU game, we came out on fire. I was like, oh. Granted, it slowed down a little bit as the game went on, but I wish we could start more games like that because they really, they came out running and it was wonderful.
Yeah, it almost seems like they kind of knew they were outclassed in that game, so they knew they had to start off hot or they weren't even going to have a chance.
Yeah.
Where it seems like all the other games are a lot more timid to begin, which I understand. You want to see what the other team's going to do, and then you make your adjustments around that. So sometimes you have those first couple drives where they're almost throwaway possessions, but you still want to do what you're good at, and I feel like especially the last, 15, 20 minutes of this football game we've had against San Jose State, they've started to do what they do well, and that's Peasley on scrambles. A lot of those play action passes to the tight ends and whatnot. So getting Parker Christensen and the other guy's name is escaping me right now, but Whelan, Cobbs, they have offensive weapons on top of McNeely and Swin in the backfield. So I don't understand why it takes us so long to get going, but that tends to be what happens. So I don't have much to say other than, I thought we would be able to break this game down, but like I said, it still looks like we're just about to head to the fourth quarter. So a lot of game left to play. do you want to just go to the NFL now, or do you have anything else to add?
No, I mean, I guess in a nutshell, Wyoming's playing better football than I had expected, but there's still a lot of frustrations, and I'll just leave it at that. I think our offense is capable of doing a lot more, and they've shown that. We just, for some reason, are still not quite breaking out in that play calling. But I mean, that's I guess all I have to say. I don't want to beat
Yeah.
up on them too bad right now.
Uh, Peasley just took a sack, so probably gonna have to punt to start the fourth. All right, so a lot of talk going on in the NFL about concussion protocol, and this is coming on the heels of Tua Tagovailoa. He had a what looked like a concussion on Sunday, and that was against the Bills. He got up, stumbled, shook his head, looked like he was clearly
Yeah,
concussed, or at least dizzy. And for some reason, after a couple series, he came back in. Teddy Bridgewater played in that game in his absence. And unfortunately, basically the same thing happened to him when they played Thursday night against the Bengals. He
yeah.
got slammed back and hit his head hard against the turf, and obviously was not
Hmm.
ready to play in that game. And in fact, the NFL has since fired that independent neurologist that was covering that game and said that they made several mistakes in allowing him to continue in that game. And obviously, they were saying it through the media, they were saying it was a back injury and that's why he stumbled, not his head. But I think
Well,
anyone watching that
this.
game could say it was his head, not his
Oh
back.
yeah. I was just gonna say it's just a crazy situation because you go back to that first game, and we talked about it off air. I mean, it just felt like everything got handled weird. I've never
Mm-hmm.
seen anybody hit concussion protocol and it get flipped. And I know that they're trying to do the narrative that it's a back and ankle injury, but he got up and stumbled. The team listed him as a head injury.
Yep.
Come to find out, this independent neurologist was asking a ton of questions, and to the point that Tua was annoyed. His coach even admitted to that they were annoying him with the amount of questions they were asking. Um, and then all of a sudden, it was switched to a back and ankle foot injury. I just, I don't know. I'm not saying who is to blame. I'm just saying there was a breakdown here. It was not handled correctly, and then for it to have a follow up in the next game, um, you hate seeing a player go down and seeing their hands and arms do what Tua's arms did. You know it's bad.
Yep.
I mean, I understand that he had movement of his extremities. He was conscious, and those are all positive things. But I mean, for me, being a Steelers fan, I immediately go back to Ryan Shazier. That stuff is
Yep.
scary.
Yeah.
Um,
We're
and
not
he's
talking about playing in games at this point. We're
no, no,
talking about
no.
livelihood.
Yeah,
It could have been really bad having
right.
that repeated concussion within 4 days, essentially.
Right. And so that's, I guess, where my biggest thing is. Somebody somewhere was of the opinion that we need Tua to win, in my
Yep.
opinion. I don't know where. I don't know where the breakdown was. I think this independent neurologist is maybe made some mistakes, but I also think that we have the case of a scapegoat here
Yep.
because there's been a lot of uproar, and so somebody's head needed to be on the chopping block. I'm very interested to see where the NFLPA and the NFL come together because they've both admitted that the changes coming for protocol. They both
Yep.
agree that needs to happen. I'm curious what they'll end up with.
Yeah. Same. They've already announced that changes are coming. They haven't announced what those are yet. So it should be, I would guess we're going to see some sweeping changes and probably a flip to the abundance of caution versus what we
Yeah.
saw last week. So, um, yeah, and that's the scary part about it is, I mean, you're talking about potential. He could be, losing loss of extremities, things like that, or feeling in his extremities, like Shazier
Oh
went
yeah,
through. So,
nerve damage. I mean, there's a million different ways this could go, and thankfully so far it hasn't. But
but yeah,
the
no,
others,
there's got to
go
be a
ahead.
way to take these decisions out of the team's hands. If
Yes.
he is even under the suspicion of a concussion, there's no way that a coach should be able to say, he's all right. He said he's good. Get him back in there, because
Yeah.
NFL players want to be in there because, I mean, you saw what happened with Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady. I mean,
Yeah.
all it takes is an injury, and you might be on the chopping block if the guy that comes in and plays better than you. So I
Well, and
think,
to your point, we run into this with the NFL constantly. I mean, back to their, code of conduct, back to the Deshaun Watson situation. The one thing I will give his camp is they're right. There's no clear, set in stone rulings. It's always up to the teams are set up to make these mistakes when it comes to these injuries. I mean, I know people will be in an uproar. It's a physical game. I understand all these arguments, but if teams keep handling them bad like this, it's going to get to the point where if you're even considered, you're out for the game regardless. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
yeah. No, I think I don't know. I mean, it's crazy to me that he was even allowed to go back in that game and then obviously start the Thursday night game. And it's
Blown away.
obviously just a coincidence that, he gets slammed onto the back of his head again. But I mean, like you said, it's a physical game. It's bound to happen. Not often that it happens back-to-back games, but sure
that's
enough.
the thing. That's why those protocols are so important. I mean, anybody who's ever had a concussion, once you have one, you're so much more susceptible to them. So,
Yep.
I mean,
Well, and the Raiders have had, I think, 4 guys out with concussion over the last 2 weeks. And I mean, Andre James, he's going to come back this week, but he missed the last 2 weeks with that concussion. And then you have Hunter Renfrow. He still hasn't been back to practice yet. So, I mean, it seems like other teams are handling it correctly. So it seems like there was a definite breakdown on the Miami sideline there. But my question for you is, everyone before this game happened against the Bengals, everyone was saying Miami's the team to beat. They're 3-0. Tua's just absolutely bombing, and what are your feelings? Even if Tua's in there, do you think Miami's the team to beat?
absolutely not. Me and you talked a lot about this off air. That Bills game really was meaningless for me.
Yeah.
So much of that team was gone. So, I mean, good for them. They won. It's a division game. All these things add up. Are they one of the better AFC teams right now? I would have said yes before all this happened, because we'll see where they end up. But with Tua, sure, they're top 5 AFC team. I agree completely. But that Bills game, when they play them again, if that Bills team is healthy, I think that will be the deciding factor, obviously, for division. But and then even the Bengals game, you can say they lost that game because Tua went out, but they weren't looking that great prior.
No. Even with Tua, I think they would have lost that game. I mean,
and the Bengals.
Go ahead.
Let's just call a spade a spade. The Bengals have not had the best season, so
no,
it's not like you were up against this juggernaut team. And even last year, I know they made the Super Bowl run, but the Bengals weren't that good during the regular season last year. They just got hot late.
Snuck into the playoffs and made it work. So
I'm not buying it yet.
That's personally. The thing is, I think this was kind of a get-right game for the Bengals. It seemed like, especially at the end, they had a lot of things clicking on offense. So I still want to see why Jamar Chase isn't more involved in that offense, because every time he touches the ball, he makes an explosive play. So you would think slants or whatever, just to get him the ball in his hands,
jet they would sweeps, do that. I mean, make that guy run.
Got to do something.
It's crazy.
But no, we talked off air. I am not buying Miami at all. I would say that they're probably a fringe playoff team. I don't even think they're top 5, like you said. I mean, I would say
I think they're top 5, but the thing that's going against them is that they're in the Bills division.
Yeah, the Bills are going to absolutely smoke them next time they play. They were missing Poyer, they were missing Hyde, they were missing what was the guy that got his neck hurt in the shoot. He's going to come back this game, so that's good news for him. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I will say one thing in Miami's favor. I think their defense has overperformed. their defense kind of reminds me of Cincinnati's defense last year. You don't have these mega stars on the defense, obviously outside of Xavier Howard,
Yep.
but they've come together and gelled, and that defense has played really well. And
Well, I
then
think they said he's going to miss this upcoming game
I
too.
know,
Yeah.
and he had a groin calf. I'm not even. I can't remember what the injury was. I saw him iced up on the sideline, but so there's
Dane
that, and
Jackson
then
is who I was talking about. Dane
thank
Jackson.
you. And then the other thing I would say is Miami's run game finally got going pretty good against Cincinnati. It was also out of necessity because Teddy came in. I mean, he made some good throws, but he was managing the game. So I'll give him credit there. I guess my biggest problem with Miami is everybody keeps going to this Tua, Tyreek Hill, and Waddle thing. The throws drive me nuts. He underthrows them constantly. And if it wasn't for the fact that Tyreek Hill's open by a mile and he can slow up, and cut back 10 yards to be able to get this pass, those aren't going to happen every single time.
That's half their offense too, is him underthrowing and then Tyreek coming back and getting PI.
And it happens like every game. I mean, so when you play the better teams, those plays happen a lot less often. So I'm sorry, I'm not buying into the hype yet. I do think that they are playing some good football and could be top 5 AFC, but they just have such a hard route through Buffalo.
Yeah, I think they'll be, like I said, probably a wild card team. I wouldn't be surprised to see them on the outside looking in at the end either. So,
crazy.
All right. Speaking of outside looking in, I think my Raiders have kind of put themselves in a rough spot where, I mean, you start 0-3, your chances of making the playoffs are very minimal at that point. I still don't want to say that they're, toast, because everyone in the AFC West lost except the Broncos last week. And, I mean, the Broncos barely snuck that out against the 49ers. I thought the 49ers were going to pull it off, but Jimmy G forgot where he was in the end zone and ended up getting a safety, and that ended up being the deciding factor, essentially. They lost by 1, so I'm not sold on the Broncos. I think they have a decent defense, but their offense is...
Thank God. They'd be in a horrible spot right now if it wasn't for that fact.
They have good skill players. I mean, you have the two-headed beast in the backfield with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, so they should have a good running play or good running offense on paper, but their offensive line has struggled quite a bit. They've had some injuries. Russell Wilson is not playing like himself, and part of that's new system, new coach, all that fun stuff. So I think that we've talked about it several times. I think the Broncos will be a lot better next year than they are this year, once they have the whole year under their plate. But Nathaniel Hackett does look lost as a head coach in the NFL. In fact, he brought in an advisor to help him with calling timeouts and things like that, handling of game situations. So that's not great.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll put some of it on Russell Wilson too. I think he's struggling to pick up the offense, which this isn't a knock on him, because way too often we think these players will just translate to a new team. He spent his entire career in a Pete Carroll system. Yep. So you can see almost the gears are turning too hard when he's behind center, but I don't know. I think this might be a good game for you guys. I'm hoping for your sake.
That's what I'm thinking. Is I think this will probably be a get right game. Got a lot of, their offensive line they're gonna be missing 2 starters, and it's already a struggling unit. So I think this might be a game where either Max absolutely destroys, or maybe we have a Chandler Jones sighting. Interior defensive line should also hopefully get some pressure as well. So I think those things tend to make it difficult for the offense to put together any points, and that's why I think it'll be a lower scoring game. But the thing that I'm concerned about is Javonte Williams out of the backfield, catching those screens and whatnot, because we made Derrick Henry last week look like a receiving back with what he was able to do, catching those screenplays out of the backfield.
Which is crazy.
And that's not his game.
That running back.
No, he excels when he has a head of steam going right into the line and just blowing people up. I mean, he's not elusive. He doesn't catch very well. So it was very shocking to see him catch all those screen passes and get out of the backfield and take those plays for huge gains. So that's one thing that we have to do is we have to start the game with some uh, urgency, because if we get behind, we're not going to come back. I mean, but good news is we are playing at home. We've had a nice winning streak against the Broncos at home. I think it's the last 6 meetings almost. No, 4 meetings, 5 meetings, something like that, that we've beat them at home in a row. So hopefully that streak keeps going. I do look for, like I said, big game by Max Crosby, hopefully Chandler Jones sighting. Uh, and then
Seriously.
I hope we just run it. I hope we just run it all day, because we've been passing, I think, almost 75% of the time. Highest pass percentage in the league right now, and it's obviously not working because Derek Carr is I don't know what he's got going on with him, but I mean, he's locking in on Devontae Adams that first game, then second and third game he pretty much completely ignores him. So they've got to get some things going in the passing game, and I think Hunter Renfro's already been declared out. Foster Moreau's been declared out. So Mac Hollins should have another big game, I think. Darren Waller has to play better. I mean, they just gave him that huge contract extension, and he dropped 2 easy touchdowns against the Titans. He dropped another one in the game before. I mean, he really hasn't been in sync all season, and I think that's got to change after getting that huge extension. You got to prove to the team why they gave you that money. So,
well, especially when you're that type of tight end. I mean, when you start talking about should I be paid wide receiver money, well then you better be bringing it in. You better be getting every jump ball that's within 10 yards of you.
I love Darren Waller. I do. And I was so excited when they gave him that contract, because he is, when he's playing like he can, he's top 3 tight end in the entire league. So that's what we need to see. We need to see him return to form. We need Devontae Adams to get involved in the offense, and we need to run the damn football. I mean, you got to run, especially against that front that the Denver Broncos have with Chubb. They get a lot of pressure on the passing game, so they got to do it. They got to run the ball more than they have been. How are you feeling about your Steelers? I know 1-2 is not great, but it's better than 0-3.
I'm kind of really tired of the connections I have with your Raiders. It seems like we talk about the exact same thing.
Yep.
Whether it be the O-line, whether it be the offense not clicking, and now in the same instance where, you know, hopefully that Broncos game is a get right game, as you put it. I'm hoping that this Jets game is the same. The Jets are a little scary just because they've played pretty well against some teams. You know,
really
obviously have. Come back against the Browns. As much as I enjoyed watching it, you know, I don't want that to be us. But the Jets are one of those teams that we should be able to capitalize. The one thing that bothers me a little bit is we have the highest paid defense in the league, and this happened last year. Every time TJ goes out, it looks like we're just, I don't know, on autopilot. I mean, we still have our players, like Minka is balling out every game. You know,
is he going to miss this game?
Possibly. It'll be game time.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think it's a chance for us to get back in the win column. Our division's the same way. It's still wide open. Our whole division's had a pretty up and down beginning to the season. So, I mean, we win this game, we're right back in it. With that being said, I know I talked about it in the last pod. I cannot, as much of a critic as I am of Bulls' offense and play calling, I am furious with Canada. I don't understand what he's doing. I can't even fathom what we're trying to do. And now you have the discord in the locker room. All these interviews. Play all the players. You can see it, whether they come out and say it or, you know, reading between the lines.
They're not
every single one of those guys. I know every single one of them was like, "Hey, I don't call the plays, man."
Mm-hmm.
You know, even Trubisky came out. You know, I want to see us get the ball to Pickens more. I'm really frustrated because I feel like even with Trubisky in there, even with our line, which has honestly played better than I ever expected them to, um,
Same.
we have some wicked, wicked weapons on offense, and we're just not using them. I saw a breakdown today actually of all of our play calls, and because everybody's mad why we're not doing, why Fryermuth isn't getting the looks that he did with Big Ben and stuff like that. It's because we don't throw in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Fryermuth is open all the time, and it's not because, or I'm sorry, it's not that he's open. They're not running routes there. Everything's to the outside. Everything's to the outside. It's like, that's not Steelers football. Getting out of bounds, that's not how the Steelers have played football. They're gritty. They're in the trenches. Like, throw it over the middle. I mean, Hines Ward became Hines Ward because of that kind of football. Like, let's get it going. Canada has amazing weapons.
Yeah,
and
that's the thing that baffles me. You guys have
I'm usually behind coaching staff. I know.
Wide receiver core.
I usually try to be super supportive, but I'm to the point now that, like, I'm ripping my hair out during every game. And some of it's on Mitch. I don't think he has the vision that some quarterbacks have, because there's a lot of plays. I mean, he had Deontay in the end zone wide open during the last game. And I mean, Deontay's throwing a fit in the end zone, rightfully so, like trying to get his attention, throw me the ball, and he never even seen him. And he wasn't pressured. He's going through his reads, the design play, and that's it. And your amazing quarterbacks are able to adjust.
It's very.
But he also came out and said he's not audible.
Yeah, well, it's very reminiscent between him and Derek Carr this season. I mean, it's almost like they heard all the news about how bad their offensive lines are, and so they're just so apprehensive about even trying to extend a play or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got the tapping their toes in the backfield. Just it's like you can see that clock in their head going, oh, it's off. Okay, I got to get it out. And yeah, no, I mean, I've watched him several times because they've always been on before the Raiders games. Yeah. And yeah, it's frustrating. I think, and that's the tough thing is you can't expect a guy to just come into a system and pick it up instantly. So that's why I'm like, okay, you throw you throw Kenny Pickett in there, and he's probably going to have the same struggles because it's a new system to him as well. But I think it's getting close.
That's the one thing he would actually do better in the system, because he has a connection to the system at Pitt.
Yeah.
But where my issue is if Canada's going to call shitty plays, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's unreal. I would like to see Kenny play this year, but it's not. I don't want him to now, because it's like, why beat up the kid? Why,
It's like the Todd Downing analogy we gave.
Whoa,
and that's
just kidding.
Turning a Ferrari into a Ford Pinto.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, I think Canada is approaching that level, and that's frustrating to me, because I didn't think anybody could ever end up in the same hemisphere as that guy.
Who was your previous OC?
Todd Haley.
Todd Haley.
Even he came out. His comments are hilarious.
Well, see, and he kind of came out in defense of Canada and said, even if you're the offensive coordinator of the Steelers, even if you're breaking all the records, you're still going to get bitched at, because all the Steelers fans just hate everyone.
Well, and that's why I was laughing at his comments, because a lot of his had to do with, obviously, him and Big Ben were butting heads during a lot of that.
Yeah, it was all just
and so the fans, the fans always tend to lean towards the players, and I get that. But he was putting up 30 points a game. I mean, I would have him back in a heartbeat. Just saying.
Yep.
All right, I'm done beating that up.
No, you're fine. I think and we've talked about it, several weeks in a row, just because the offense has been so out of whack. But do you think if Mitch has another bad game, do you think we see a switch mid-game next week? What are you thinking?
I don't think it'll be mid-game, but if we lose to the Jets, and especially if it's ugly, because we're not even having successful drives. It's not like we're just, petering out late in the drive. I mean, we're just 3 and outs, 3 and outs, 3 and outs. Like,
Well,
we
and
look
that
inept
puts
on
so
offense.
much pressure on your
Well,
defense to
and
be
that's it
perfect.
too. I've seen so many people come out talking about our defense letting us down, and I'm just
It's
like,
like, what are you talking about?
give me a break.
Well,
Like,
that's
we're in these games only because of them. I mean,
it's
look at the week
frustrating.
1 win.
Dude,
Like, come on.
our teams are mirrors of each other essentially, except
It's been really weird
our
this year.
defense
Like,
isn't as good as yours, obviously.
but they've
Um,
kept you in
but
games.
yeah, I mean, they've kept us competitive. So it's just
I don't know.
frustrating because it's like, yeah, all of Raider Nation is defense can't do anything. It's like, what game are
I
you
know.
watching? Like,
I'm just like,
our
you're
defense
right.
is giving us every
Yeah,
opportunity to stay in this game, and the offense is just like, we'd rather
I
not. Let's
know.
just punt.
Every time I read it, I'm like, you're right. In the fourth quarter, after they've been on the field for 75% of the game, you're right.
Yep.
They gassed out.
Yeah,
Bad on
that's
them. But
that's the worst, most frustrating thing about the season for the Raiders is defense has been competitive and the offense is not. And
I'd say they've
everyone
overachieved.
everyone coming into the season said we're a top five offense guaranteed, and we've been anything but that. So, but did you see
Sorry.
the? Just a quick note on the Raiders. Did you see Tyler Columbus's thread?
Yeah.
Dude, that was brutal.
Uh,
So
I
anyone that
don't mean to
hasn't seen
laugh.
this, I'm not going to read the whole thread. I'm just going to give a quick breakdown of what it is. But Tyler Columbus he was an offensive lineman for the Denver Broncos back when Josh McDaniels was on um, when he was the head coach of the Broncos, and he said it, so it basically just starts in honor of Raiders Week. I present a thread about my favorite Hurricane Josh McDaniels stories. After trading away the young nucleus of our offense, including Jay Cutler, Josh said to the entire team, fellas, don't worry about the quarterback situation. I can turn a high school quarterback into an all pro. And he basically just said, he didn't have a good feel for us as players. He said, they did 2 days as often as was legal. Every day started with 10 minutes of bad football from the day before, and where he just cussed out the team. He said there was like 25 signs around the building with slogans, and if you forgot any of them, you would get an ass chewing there too. He said after the season, he had an exit interview with his coach, basically breaking down his play, and the coach was so depressed and miserable he didn't even care what he said. He was just concerned for his well being, and the coach said, I'm not going to come back. And he said, are you getting fired or not? And he said, I don't care, but I'm getting the hell out of here. It's a difficult man to work for. And then he said, lastly, no one doubts Josh's ability about his knowledge of the X's and O's and calling plays, all that stuff. It's always just been about how he handles relationships with players and his staff. So
Well,
uh,
and
it's pretty
we always
damning.
talk we always talk about these coaches, and there's a lot of them in the league that they're coordinators, and that's not a bad thing. Like, they excel as coordinators, and we've seen it this time and time again. Because I mean, ultimately, I think that's what a head coach
Yep.
is the relationships. You're managing, in a lot of cases, young boys, because these guys in a lot of cases have never had to mature, in the adult business world. I mean, they're athletes, they're playing sports. They're
Yep.
still kids by the time a lot of these guys get a hold of them. But I always wonder about that, because there's so many of these guys that make the jump to head coach, and it's like, man, you had a good thing going. Like, I understand wanting to, of course, if you were in that industry, you want to become a head coach, but he has so much success as a coordinator, and then it's just like, I don't know. Obviously,
Well,
there's some issues.
there's a couple memes out there, and one of them that
Oh
made me
yeah,
laugh my ass off. It was Bill Belichick didn't name an offensive coordinator because he knew McDaniels would be rejoining him in a couple of weeks, and like
yep. I seen that one this morning, and I was like, this is rough.
just have to laugh through the pain. I really do think they'll turn it around. I think they have too much talent on both sides of the
Yeah.
football to not. And the difficult thing is all the teams that they've played are 1-2, and their only wins against anyone is against the Raiders. So that's not great. But like I said, they're not out of it. Chiefs are 2-1, Broncos are 2-1, and I think this is going to be similar to last year where they started I think 3-0 and then really came back down. So the Raiders still have room. Chargers, man, I tell you every year, I'm not
I
picking the
know.
Chargers to do anything because
They
of
got
their
they got me this year.
yeah.
I let myself get excited.
It's not the lack of talent. It's always just they
No.
cannot stay on the
And
field.
they
I mean,
added a ton of talent.
I know.
I was just like,
I
oh
mean,
man.
Bosa's on the IR. You've got Herbert's banged up. You've got J.C. Jackson's not recovering from his ankle surgery, uh, and the list.
Uh,
Keenan Allen still with his
Keenan
hamstring
Allen's, yep.
quad. I can't remember what that was.
Which
I mean,
that's going to mess with him all year.
they're just banged up at every position essentially. So, and it happens every year, and that's why I never pick the Chargers to do anything. They're always, a 500 team if they have talent. If they don't have talent, they're worse than that. So, um, I really think the
Yeah,
AFC West is wide open. It's not as good as we thought it was going to be, quite honestly.
I'll give you that.
I
I'm
think
pretty let down by the whole division.
The Chiefs are head and shoulders above the rest of the division, but I still don't think they're I would say they're probably the third, fourth, maybe fifth best team in the AFC. So I
Yeah.
don't know. We'll see. I'm excited to see how this season ends up. But before we move on to baseball, I just did want to congratulate Larry D. Nance on his new contract. He signed a 2-year extension with the New Orleans Pelicans. So excited for him, another Wyoming
Yeah,
graduate.
that's
So
awesome.
absolute stud. Happy for him. So now, without further ado, let's talk about. Well, let's just say Judge hit his 61st home run, tying Roger Maris's AL home run record. Pitchers haven't been so interested in throwing to him the last week or two, which is
Yeah.
the whole time it was baffling to me. Like, not many other players in the Yankees lineup have been doing much. So I was like, why are people still pitching to him? But seems like they finally figured that part out, and they don't want to give up the record tying or record breaking home run. So, what did you think about Judge? You think he gets 62 by the end of the season?
I'm going to be honest with you, and this is going to be blunt and probably over the top, but like, who cares? I still don't understand why this is such a big deal.
I think the
Like,
same thing. It's funny because all the people on Twitter are so pissed that they keep cutting into the Yankees games during college football. They're like, who cares? It's not even the real record. Like,
that's what I
sure,
mean. Like,
sure, it's the
I don't know
AL
why it's a
home
big
run record,
deal.
but yeah, unless he hits
And I mean,
13 more of them babies, I don't really care.
I guess I was, I don't know. For me, I think it was way cooler watching him tie the record and seeing Roger Maris's family and his family. Like, I think that was a cool baseball moment.
Eh,
And kind of passing the torch within the Yankee organization. I'm sure that's cool if you're a Yankee fan, blah, blah, blah. It's still not the record for home runs. Why are we talking about? I care way more about Pujols still hitting dingers
yeah,
than I care about this. Like,
I was
I
gonna
don't
text you
understand. Yeah,
yesterday
thank you for that.
that he
Thank you
needs
for
to
that.
just come back and keep signing with teams that are playing the Pirates because he absolutely crushes you guys.
Yeah, but that's the thing is he always has. Like, you're welcome. I bet you half
But
of those probably are on us.
yeah, no, I went to text you. It's like he's got a newborn. I'll leave him alone. But
I would have done it to you. Just send it next time.
okay, I
I mean, what are
literally
you
had
going to
it
do?
typed and then
I
I just
can't get
hit
any
delete.
lower.
Yeah.
I guess with that being said, I might as well jump into
Speaking of your
the
Pirates,
Buccos here. Honestly, though, we're we are who we thought we were, but we have a lot of young guys, and they've definitely brought up more in the last couple weeks. And I think they've performed really well. It's been fun to see. Like Juwan Bay finally made it up here, and that kid can play. I'm excited for him at second base. I think he'll start at second base next year. And having him and O'Neal Cruz right there, especially with the shift things happening,
yep.
I'm pretty excited. I think that's going to be a solid infield. Um,
You know who's
one
been a
of them,
major
though,
letdown?
who?
Key Brian Hayes.
Tell me about it. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna dive into the Cabrian Hayes thing here. So the kid on defense is obviously lights out. Like
Yep.
the fact that he hasn't won a Golden Glove is only because people continue to give Arenado votes no matter what. Moving on from that, I don't know who is coaching him at bat, but his launch angles drive me insane. He chips it into the dirt every single at bat. Literally just line out, line out, line out, line out, line out. Always the same. He never gets under a single pitch. I'm convinced every time he hits a home run or a good hit, it's because the pitcher threw the ball at his bat. Like, I'm so frustrated with him because he's so talented. And I thought this was going to be the year that he made that jump, with his at bats, and it just hasn't happened. I'm frustrated because I'm telling you, it chips down every single time.
There were plenty of talent evaluators when he signed that contract that said they're massively overpaying him. Which obviously, if he turned into the player that I think the Pirates thought he was going to be, it would have been a huge discount. But it looks like all the people that were saying he has no power potential are correct, and it's just because, like you said,
but even
it's approach.
I could care less about power. He doesn't need to hit dingers. I don't want him to. Put the ball in play. Like,
well,
I could care less about
value is especially at a corner position. You're playing. That's a power position. So
I understand that, but at the same time, we have guys on the team that can smoke dingers. If he can just get a single on the regular, like we're putting up points, they're no longer just a solo home run. All of a sudden, we're putting up 2. I'm really hoping he puts in some time this off season and really gets the at bats going. That's frustrating. With that being said, we're 59 and 99 right now, so it's looking like another 100-loss season.
Well, not as bad as the A's because they're at 102 losses now, I think, with the loss today to the Mariners. Yeah. And I guess I should have said that before I dug into my A's, but congratulations to the Seattle Mariners. They just made the playoffs for the first time since 2001.
2001.
So nice little stretch. Obviously, I'm not excited for them. Well, I am, but division rival, it's tough to be excited for them. But if someone from our division is to win the World Series, I would like it to be them because I can't stand the Astros.
They're a fun outfit too because it's easy to root for them, I guess, is what I'll say.
Yeah. I'm still bummed that I didn't get to take that trip out there this summer because that was one that we had planned, but didn't end up happening. So, Wyoming, it looks like they are going to fall to 3-3. San Jose State's up 33-16. They already pulled Peasley. There's only a minute left, so rough break for them, but they are still in position to take their division. Boise State's 2-0 in the conference. Air Force is 1-1. They're in the second spot on their side, and then Cowboys just dropped to third place. So, hopeful. I mean, the rest of the schedule is looking pretty decent for the Cowboys. They do play Boise State late in the year, so if they can beat them, they'll have a good chance. So.
Well, and I'll take it at this point. I'll be honest. After our first game, I thought we were going to be.
It was going to be real bad.
Like 1-2 wins, maybe.
I really am going to try to make it out to that game, the Utah State game on October 22nd. So maybe we'll have a little Square State Sandlot live from.
I like it.
War Memorial. I doubt you could make that one, but
probably not.
If we could make it work, that would be fantastic.
Set up our own booth in the stands.
Yep. Tailgating.
Yeah,
do it right there from the parking lot. All right. I think that's all I have. I mean, A's, I pretty much summed it up. 101, 102 losses now on the season. Not playing very well. Lots of guys on the team right now that I didn't expect to be on the team at the start of the season. I mean, there's plenty of guys that I never even heard of because we claimed them off waivers and whatnot. So, I mean, it's definitely a team that I don't even recognize at this point. And I am, for the first time in a long time, I am so ready for this season to be over. Want to watch the
Yeah.
playoffs and, see how that goes. But at this point, I'm not really into baseball. I mean, I haven't even watched the A's. I
Yeah.
watched them last night. They got walked off, and that's the first time I'd watched them in like 3 days. And I was like, of course, watch this game, take it all the way into the ninth,
Yeah.
tied, and they get walked off.
I'm
Fantastic.
uh, I'm kind of in a similar boat. The only thing I'm excited for the off season because this is kind of that put up or shut up off season. If we don't make a substantial jump next season,
I was
then
hoping
in
you
my
guys would
opinion, it
sign
was all a
Otani,
joke.
but
No,
looks like the
missed
Angels
out.
have him for one more year. So
My brother-in-law asked me that a while back. He's like, "Are we going to sign Otani?" And I'm like, "No,
no,
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 we're
you're
not.
not. Although, I mean,
Unless they give unless
it
I
would
can
be
sign him for like a league minimum, then
well. And the
probably
crazy
not."
thing is, I don't know if you saw his deal today. They avoided arbitration, 1 year, 30 million,
Yeah,
highest arbitration contract ever. Uh, I think the previous high was 27 million, so
it's pretty
eclipsed that
wild.
by 3 million, and it's the biggest raise ever in an arbitration. Well, it would have been arbitration hearing, but arbitration contract. So, congrats to Otani. I
Good for
don't think
him.
he'll be with the Angels after this season or this upcoming season, but we'll see
The
what he
part that
gets.
scares me is
What do
he's
you
going
think
to
he'll
go to
get?
somebody. He's going to go to some place that I hate for starters.
Yeah, he's going
And
to go to
then
Atlanta.
he's gonna have some record breaking contract that no sports individual's ever seen.
What do you think he'll get? Honestly,
At this, I honestly can't put a number to it. We live in such a weird world of sports contracts, and to do what he's done, I don't think you can put a dollar value. He's
I
going to
mean,
be able to field offers from.
Trout's
I
getting
mean,
42 million a year, and
he'll get
he's
more.
yeah. I mean, he's just as good as Trout on the offensive side of the ball. Plus, he's
Yeah,
an
plus he'll be a
all star
starting. Yeah,
caliber pitcher too. So,
I mean, if I was in his corner, I'd be like, dude, get two salaries.
do you think he gets
Why not?
60? I mean, that would be
I
far
wouldn't
and
bat an eye
away.
at it. Yeah, it would. I mean, it would be crazy, but like, I wouldn't be like, no, that's horrible. It's unjustified. I'd be like, my
I
team
still
won't
think
pay
that
it,
might
so
be
whatever.
like less than it's worth based on what he does on the field.
I
If he
don't think
got
there's a
60,
dollar value. I think this is one of those contracts that will set the tone, but also not because I mean, it's not like there's a ton of these two-way guys
no,
around.
he's a damn
Um,
unicorn. I mean,
I don't. I just pay. I pay the man. I don't even care.
that's the crazy thing is
It's
like I could see if okay, let's say Trout's 42, your highest paid pitchers are typically, up in the 30-35 million a year range. So does
well,
he get
here,
70?
here's my thing. So
That's
I guess
combining the two.
my way of putting it in perspective is okay. This is the equivalent of an NFL quarterback also being like a shutdown safety.
Yeah.
Like it's not feasible. It just isn't. I mean, that kind of a two-way play. I mean, I know Dion did it, and there's some things like, but like you'd have to be the quarterback. Like that stuff stops in college, and really most times high school nowadays.
Yep.
What he's doing is, I mean, I write him a check. I don't care what you pay him. He's worth it. Give him
It's
100.
just
I don't care.
I'm excited to see what he gets just because
Yeah,
I think
it's gonna be crazy.
anything he gets is going to be underwhelming because I feel like
Yeah.
any front office that is willing to sign him is going to be like, okay, look, you do both, but you're not going to do both forever. Eventually,
Yeah.
either the arm's going to break
Well,
down or,
I think you'll have the contract will be heavy early on because you're
yeah,
probably only going to have a handful of seasons of him, being at the top of both.
yeah.
But the last thing I would say about him is I'm just super pumped for him. He's such a humble player. Um, I really like watching his interviews. I think he's an easy person to root for obvious reasons, but just good for him. It's unreal. His life is never going to be the same after this contract. He's about to make more money than he knows what to do with.
Yeah. It's going to be insane. And that's the thing that I don't know. I wouldn't say concerns me, but I think they'll probably do some kind of incentive laden deal where it's based on how many
Agreed.
games he pitches and things like that. Because,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't think he'll be able to do both for too much longer. Eventually, I don't think you can do both at such a high level. So I think eventually he's going to have to commit to one. But while we see
Yeah.
it, it's just incredible. And I think Judge is going to get the MVP for the AL just because he has had a record-breaking season in terms of how many home runs he's hit. He's up for the Triple Crown,
Yeah.
but I still think Ohtani deserves the MVP over him, and I think the thing that's going to separate them is Judge is on a winning team while Ohtani's team is not doing well. But I
Yeah.
really hate that holding the team success against the player because just because the Angels are a dumpster fire and not ran well, you shouldn't hold that against a player on the team
I
that's
agree
having a
entirely.
transformative season like this. So, all right, I think that's all I have. You have anything else before we cut it?
I just one little nugget. October 7th, I think hockey kicks off. They got preseason games going right now, so I mean, right as the Buccos are ramping down, Penguins will be ramping up for me. So super excited about that. If you're interested in hockey, check it out.
Well, and I've got
That's
the
all I
Warriors
got.
to hopefully pick me up after the A's stop playing. So we'll see how that goes. I know they were. I can't remember who was predicting it, if it was Vegas or one of those predicting sites. They had the Warriors at like a 15% chance to be in the finals. So Steph clapped back at that. He said last year you guys had us not even or a 15% chance to make the playoffs or
Yeah.
something like that. So we'll see. I'm excited for this season for sure, especially to see
I
if
wouldn't root
Wiseman can
against
stay
them.
healthy. And Iguodala's coming back too, so should be a
Nice.
juicy little season. We'll see. All right. Well, with that being said, we want to thank you guys for tuning in. I know we saw several in the live stream. We'll post this later so you can watch it or I guess listen to it on podcast feeds, whatever. Um, as always, if you guys want to be a part of this, uh, when we do the live streams, enter the chat. I mean, we can bring you on as a guest during if you want to just if you want to essentially call in and leave a comment if you want to be part of it. If you want to actually come on and be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So get a hold of one of us and we'll get you involved. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Kyle, any parting words?
Nope, just happy to be on.
All right. We'll catch you guys on the next one.